Hi there, I'm Viano, and this is my 19th video tutorial on D3. And in this video I'll show you yet another layout in D3, and that is the Treemap layout that we're witnessing right here. And the Treemap layout is one of the hierarchical layouts, and what that means is we use it to visualize hierarchical data. And in this case I just reused the mydata.json file that I created for another video. And as you can see, the structure of this file is we have our root node here, and then we have 3 children to that root node, and 2 of those children have children themselves. So we have a hierarchical structure of our data, is what I'm trying to say. As you can see, we're not showing all the objects in our data. We're only showing the leaf nodes, that is the nodes or the objects without children. You can do this in different ways, but that's what I chose to do. So let me show you how to, well, it should be clear what this is, right? Yeah. Let's just continue and start drawing our tree map. So as usual, we start by loading up our data. So my data.json function data. Alright, and then to create our tree map, we just, as with all the other layouts, we just say d3.layout and then the name of the layout. We can set the size. I'll just make it the same size as our canvas. And then using the nodes method, we are defining where our data is coming from. So from the data variable here that we're loading with our JSON command here. And I want to show you the data so that it's clear what objects the Treemap layout returns. So let's refresh this and inspect. You can see that we are returned with an array of 9 objects, each for, well, 1 for each object in our original data. And but as you can see here, we are only displaying 6 rectangles, and that is, like I said, that in this case I'm only showing the leaf nodes, the nodes without children. But anyways, for each of these returned objects, we returned with the value for each, which is stored in our data. We're also returned with the name of that object, but the important properties here are the x and y and dx and dy properties. And what these refer to is, well, these are computed by the layout. So the x and y properties describe the starting point from the point from where each rectangle is drawn. So that would be the top left corner for each rectangle. And then the dx and dy properties references the extent of the rectangle. So the dx property would be for this rectangle this point right here, and the dy would be the point right here, or yeah, this line here. I hope that makes sense. It's not that complicated actually. So let's use those properties to draw our rectangles. We can begin by binding our data to our document and creating a G element for each of our nodes. So the data would then come from the Treemap variable, and then enter and append G, or actually we can do it like that. So we have a class for each G element. So attribute class would be cell Okay, and now we can append our rectangles to these G elements, and that, so there are a number of properties that we need to define for rectangles in general in SVG, right? You remember that we need to specify the X and Y position, and then the width, and also the height. And each of these will be functions, and a function of our data. And yeah, like I showed you, each of these objects have X and Y and DX and DY properties, and we'll just supply these, we'll just make all these properties functions of those properties that the tree map layout gives us. So we'll say return DX for the X position, and then return DY for Y, and so on. Whoops. And for the width, that would be the DX property, and the height would be the DY. Okay, so let's save this and refresh, and we just have this blob, a big black rectangle. And that's because we're not separating, we're not giving them different colors or any stroke or anything at all. They're all black. But okay, let's start by, we could use a color scale that D3 provides us with. So we'll say D3 scale.category, and D3 has a number of these. You can just look them up in the documentation. But if we say category 10, we're returned with this is a function that provides us with 10 a scale of 10 colors. So we could say fill and make that a function of our data. And if we wanted to, okay, so if we take a look at the finished layout here, you can see that we are actually just using 3 different colors, and these show that these 3 elements belong together, these 2 belong together, and this one is in a separate group. And what that is based on is, if we return to our data, these 3 have the same color, these 2 have the same color, and this has yet another color. So we are defining the color based on the parent of each object. And to accomplish that, we'll just say function return and then color, and then we want to base the color on the parent of each object and the name of that parent. So if we save now and return to this, no, why not? Cannot read property name of undefined. Okay, color would be the parent name. Oh, this may be because all objects don't have parents. So if we make this a if we use an if statement, so we're saying if it has children, then return null, so no color, else return what we just said. So refresh. Okay, so now it works. We're just showing, we're not displaying the objects that have children. Okay, so that's all good. The next thing would be to append some text to our rectangles, just to display the name of that of each rectangle. So we'll say X will be a function, and here we'll return first the DX property, which is the left border, and then we'll add the extent of that of our data. So it will be the text will be positioned at the right border, right? But then we'll divide this by 2, so it's displayed in the middle of each rectangle. And we'll do the same for the Y position. So we'll say return dy plus dy divided by 2. And yeah, let's take a look at this. Okay. Oh, and of course we need to set the text, and the text will be a function which will return the name of each object. So let's save and refresh. Okay. Good. But we could also say here that we only want to return the names of the leaf nodes. So if it has children, return null, else return the name. Yeah, and now, okay, as you can see, we need to separate the rectangles within each group, and we can do that just by adding a stroke. So we'll say stroke will be, let's say, white. There are other ways of doing this, but yeah, that's an easy way. Okay, so we have our distance or space between them, but they're a bit too much to the right, the labels to each rectangle. So we'll say here we'll say text anchor, which is by default start, but we'll say middle, and save, refresh. Okay, looking good. So not very complicated. It's all based on the properties that we returned with, that the layout returns, and yeah, I think you'll get the hang of it if you just take a close look at what I did in this video. That would be the last layout, I think, that we'll cover at least for a while, and I'll see you next time.